if you drink your milk and eat your vegetables, you too can be a U.S. Army infantryman. Like, like old timey, like fucking recruiting videos that would play in a movie theater or some shit.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, we would.
Great Depression vibes.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Support our boys at the front. Buy war bonds. Like, that's, like.
Okay, this is the intro.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Seriously Loco, the Seriously Crazy fan podcast for El Paso Locomotive FC, a proud member of the Beautiful Game Network, and brought to you by Roughneck Scarves and Icarus FC. I'm Phil Bakke, and as always, I'm joined by a full panel tonight. We've got a lot to talk about. Big derby game, and no better group to join me than Austin Young. Austin, how's it going?
Pretty good. Definitely stole some points from New Mexico, and I think we all walked out of that game feeling like it was a win instead of a tie.
Yeah. The draw that feels like a win is always a benefit, and certainly, like, I mean, tough first game of the season to go into a derby like that with them already having played a game as well.
Yeah, so this should be a fun episode, and glad to be here.
Yeah, tons to talk about. So we brought along Mikka Bryam as well. Mikka, how are you?
I'm good, Phil. How are you doing?
I'm good. Like, I'm still a little bit, that result, a little bit of a mixed bag, frustrating at times, but in the end, I mean, happy to come away with a point given that we were, a minute away from not.
Indeed. Yeah. I think it felt like Austin said, I think it felt like a win. I was explaining it to a friend this morning, and I sent him the link, and I said, here was our last minute winner. And he's like, you mean equalizer? I was like, yes. My bad. You are correct.
No, it did feel like a winner for sure. And lots around the goal that we'll talk about for sure. But we've got Christian Canales as well. Christian, how you doing?
Doing good, man. It was a good win, good weekend. Mother's Day and all that. Got to spend some time with the family, watch some movies. So doing good. Yeah,
that's happy Mother's Day to all the moms listening. I'm sure there's some moms who are overhearing their significant other listening to this potentially, and to those moms who actually listen, happy Mother's Day. But yeah. Big episode, lots to cover. New Mexico United, the draw in the opening day derby, opening day itself, and a preview of the game coming up next weekend against RGV, the undefeated RGV Toros. But first, as we always do, Christian, take it away.
I've got a question, guys. So, like I said, spent this weekend watching some movies with the family and whatnot. And I'm just kind of curious if there is a particular character or actor in movie, TV show, or something that you just really can't stand for whatever reason. If there's, you just have just like in the pit of your stomach, just like a burning hatred for them.
Are we about to do the Shithouse 11 of Hollywood?
You go first, Phil, because I feel like you are very much the TV buff among us.
Man, a character or someone that I can't stand. Well, I can tell you for sure that that my wife's is an actress, Cameron Diaz, cannot deal.
Does that have anything to do with the fact that she's Justin Timberlake's ex?
It may or may not. As far as I go, I'm not sure if there's someone that actually. Well, I don't know. It's tough to say. I think of a show that I just really don't like. And so this person is the most associated with it. And that is, I'm sorry to those who like this show. I know it's really popular, but Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory. is like the worst character ever in my mind. I apologize because I know that that's a really popular show, but I really don't like him. I don't get it as a character, and yeah. Anyways, that's my hot take.
Popular show, but I think that's also probably a popular opinion too.
Oh, fair enough.
I think.
Yeah, I think there's enough people that would agree with you.
What do you guys think? Who do you hate?
I was like, yeah, I think you guys know where I'm going with this one because I had to chime in. Very apropos of nothing into the group chat at probably about 11:30 at night on Saturday. It was random, but we were watching Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the old one, and every time I watch that, fake ass Grandpa Joe, decides to lay in bed for God knows how many years while the family is destitute, and then as soon as something fun comes up, soon as he turns into one of those relatives that starts calling when you win the lottery. As apparently his legs work just fine.
That clip of John Mulaney talking about that, just like, you could walk this whole time, like that shit sends me. And he's like, his other grandpa was Grandpa George, and he didn't get jack shit.
He had one line in the movie.
Yeah, that shit is funny. Yeah, Grandpa Joe sucks, man. And then to top it all off, like, he hasn't walked in 40 years. He gets up out of bed so he can go on this tour of the chocolate factory. Motherfucker tries to fuck it up for Charlie at the first opportunity.
Oh,
unbelievable. Yeah, that's a good shout. I like that. I love the animosity towards a random old man in a movie, though, too.
Oh, my gosh.
Absurd.
Well, I'm going to have to go. This is like a love-hate, but... And I think that it's on purpose, but Michael Scott from The Office. Like, think about if that man was your boss. Like,
talk about a hot take.
It is
That's
a hot
where
take.
I thought you were going, Phil.
Me?
You said like this is
yeah.
That's
no,
really
that's fair. The build up was
I'm
there.
about to walk out.
I love The Office, though. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's definitely love-hate, because sometimes I just want to punch him in the face, but he makes the show. So.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
sure
fine.
there's others that I'm not thinking of, but...
I think I'm going to have to go with, and it's not even that I hate, just the show makes me feel so awkward and I watch it, is Larry David and Curb.
Oh, man. I love Curb.
Like, I have to, when I watch an episode, there's times where I just have to pause it and be like, I'll come back to it later. It's just so awkward. And it's just...
Curb is classic, though. It's like a more intensely, like, it's like a ratcheted up version of Seinfeld, and it's just so good.
Oh, God. I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
What could be, like, more intense than Seinfeld?
You just gotta see it. Like, it has to be seen to be believed.
Gotcha.
Well, I'm interested, like, if anyone out there has their villains or like their people who get on their nerves from TV and movies. That's a really interesting question. But onto the draw. New Mexico at the swap. And stop me if you've heard this one before. Locomotive frustrated for large portions of the game. New Mexico opened the scoring. El Paso toil, and eventually find the equalizer late on. This was, I mean, Mikka, we could start with you, but this was, it just felt familiar for this Locomotive team, especially against New Mexico United.
Yes, it did feel familiar, and I think we'll get on to it when we talk about the starting 11, but I mean, the only debutante in the starting 11 was Luis Solignac. So maybe it was familiar. It felt familiar because it was.
Yeah.
These are the same players that that have produced these kinds of performances where, it's just a grafting kind of performance, nothing in the way of like super high intensity or anything. And we'll get onto that too with some of our listener questions. But yeah, I want to say there's probably mitigating factor in that it is opening night. And, as we know, the first fixture of any season can be more of an occasion than anything, especially with the reintroduction of fans, because there was 70% capacity the other night, and it was pretty full in there. So, I mean, I think that's something, too, that the players may be getting used to. Not to make excuses for them, but, I mean, these are just things that we have to acknowledge are the case. It's a bit different this time around. So, yeah.
Yeah, Austin, you were there in the stands. I mean, it sounded loud on TV. What was it like being in that sort of atmosphere with 70% after us being used to, no fans or a smattering of fans?
No, it was definitely a refreshing thing, like being back in there with everybody. It was probably one of the loudest times I've heard the swap in general. There's probably a couple instances where I think it was probably the most loudest. To be more specific, the cool arrow chant, like the 80th minute. But no, it was good. Everybody, like, because Phil made a comment in our private chat, and I was kind of looking back at it. I don't think the footage shown of the stands does any favors to that. Actually, a lot of people did follow like the mask mandate, and everybody really was like taking precautions and stuff. So other than that, it was pretty good.
Yeah. And that was based on like a snapshot,
the TV
like
coverage,
late in the game, and who knows at that point, but no, it did seem overall, like when I watched the highlights back, especially, and everything, it did seem like the fans did a good job of just trying to keep each other safe in these times. But it was awesome to see, such a crowd back at the swap. And, Christian, I mean, your just overall impressions from this game, it felt like one where Locomotive kind of had a little bit trouble just getting going, had some bright moments, but, never really created like the sort of danger that we were expecting.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that it's a little deceiving, because I think that we did have a good handful of attacking chances that were not capitalized on.
Sure.
If you were to flip a coin on, does the goal go in or does it not? There's just as good a chance that we could have won the game like 4-1. For a lot of really good opportunities that we couldn't finish, which goes back to, that familiarity. How many times have said, we did everything right, we just need to finish. So
sure,
that's a little troubling, but like Mikka said, it's the first game of the season, so you have to take it with a grain of salt a little bit, and wait and see what develops.
The starting 11, it was as we talked about last episode, we got it basically spot on, with the only real question mark being around what that midfield was going to be, and then who was going to partner. I think we had landed on Yuma and Mishak being the most likely partnership, but Niall Logue's fitness struggles obviously made that a certainty. But overall, Logan, Maka, Mishak, Yuma, and Adair instead of Andrew Fox. And then Bryam, Richie Ryan, Nick Ross, Dylan, Josue Aron Gomez, and then Luis Solignac, the only debutant, as you said, Mikka. So this lineup, it was more or less what we had kind of predicted, with, there were a couple of like maybes here or there, but as you said, like a very familiar feel about the way Mark set up on the opening night.
Yeah, indeed. I think it was what we could expect, both formation wise and in terms of personnel. I expected Lucho to make his debut because he was kind of our marquee signing, if you will. So it was good to see that he was fit enough to start, and I think there's more to come from him. I think we'll get on to how he didn't really get on the ball as much as we would have liked, but yeah, no real surprises on the day.
And for you guys, thinking about the starting 11, did you have any issues with the way Mark set the team out, or was this pretty much what you thought we were going with?
I'm pretty sure that this is exactly what I thought it was going to look like. We knew that the diamond was very likely going to be used again. So, it's what Mark has kind of been tinkering with, since last year. So
we had a couple of questions right out of the gate, just at the start of the game. The first from at Pinchy Ponchy, well-known drummer of the Eighth Notch. He said, more of an observation, the slow starts. This is the season opener versus our rivals, fans in the stands. Where was the intensity? This isn't the first time slow starts seem to be the norm. And then we had a question from at Yancey 1389. We're only one game into this season, but since the club's inception, it feels like the team is often very hesitant coming out of the gates. Does the team need to be willing to take more risks and put their opposition under more pressure earlier in the game? Austin, did this resonate with you? Like, do you feel like the slow start is something that you think about when you're thinking of this locomotive side?
I think, like how you mentioned last week, that we're kind of seeing that progression. At least we were, where first year we lose 3-1 in the opener, then we tied last year, and we went into this week thinking, hey, this might be the turn. But I'm starting to think that maybe it's the way that Mark's style is, not necessarily to go out for a tie, but not to come out full on attack at the beginning of the season. It's a marathon, not a sprint type of thing. So it's starting to become the norm, but something that we definitely want to see change, but I don't know if it will.
Yeah, I think this one's a little interesting, because I think we know that New Mexico is going to come, especially in a game like this, they're going to come flying out of the blocks and try to get an early goal, so that because that's how they've always played, and they get that early goal, they sit back from there and just try to frustrate. And in this one, they did get they got a decent opportunity early from the set piece. I think it was Kalen Ryden on the end of a header, and he probably should have done better, honestly, from the chance. But they had that opening maybe 5 or 6 minutes. But do you think, Mikka, it's a locomotive slow start, or do you think it's like measured from locomotive versus, New Mexico kind of flying out of the blocks and then dropping back?
Yeah, I'm going to do something that I hate to do, and that's give New Mexico United credit, because I think they make us look like we're having a slow start. And obviously that does reflect on us too. But
yeah,
even from the first kickoff, you see a lot in the major leagues and in big games. They play the ball back to the center back and just start to build the possession. New Mexico United did not do that. They immediately went forward with the kickoff.
Yeah.
And I think that just kind of set the tone for those opening 20 minutes, I would say, where I thought they were the better side and the more intense side. And like you said, Kalen Ryden gets that header that probably should be doing better on. It's a free header. No one's following him. We're zonal marking, which is a whole nother topic for another day. Right. Yeah, I think they make us look slow, and it's troubling. I'm not going to lie to you. And obviously the fans can see it by the questions that we're getting. Again, though, I will mitigate and say it's the opening day. I don't know how much we can read into that. We've had 2 seasons now to look at how we start, but we've not looked this way in starting versus other sides. So yeah, I think it's a United thing a lot of the time.
And it is a little bit strange in this particular situation with United coming out of a frustrating away loss to RGV. It feels like it's going to be tough to match the intensity of a team that not only has a regular season game under the belt already, but has reason to come out of the gates and, get off to a flyer because they were so frustrated down in Edinburgh.
I don't know. For me, I was thinking, during that beginning part of the game, like if there was, we didn't have any hydration breaks because it was actually a pretty nice night. But I was really hoping for one because I really feel like what they needed to hear was that, like, New Mexico is kind of the one, like, under the gun here because they've already had a shocker of a first loss. Mm-hmm. So, like, relax. Like, they're the ones that are, that have something to lose in this game, because we just looked so tense and so nervous. And so I think that the fact that New Mexico had that result in week 1 should have actually benefited us.
And that is fair. I think it can go both ways for sure. I think, I definitely get your point in that they should have been the more nervous and the more kind of chasing that win versus us where, we had a bit of an opportunity. I think, as we said, Mikka, though, after those opening 20 minutes, it did seem to start to come together for Locomotive, and there were a few promising passages of play. Ultimately, it doesn't really lead to anything, though, and first half ends scoreless.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say that the first 20 minutes was totally shocking. I do like the fact that in the 11th minute, Aaron Gomez takes that crack from outside the area. I love to see that. It's something that we've been clamoring for. Take more shots. They appear to be doing that. So, we need to give, I think, a little bit of credit to the attackers in that regard. But, I mean, we definitely grew into the game, I would say. The first half kind of just feeling each other out. Two yellow cards for us, which, I mean, okay. Yeah. I think that they're probably if what we got if we got yellow cards for what infractions we committed, then there should have been some on New Mexico United, but that's just how it goes, I guess, in USL. But I mean, after about the half hour mark, that's when I felt like we had a lot of good chances. There was that turn by Gomez to make space for himself and get the shot off. It's wide, but I mean, again, he's shooting. That's what we want. That's what we asked for.
Right.
There's right after that, there's another counterattack by us where Borelli, I think it was Garrett who called it a shass, like a shot pass, where he got caught in two minds a little bit. I think he saw Tempakis off his line and thought maybe he could beat him, but he couldn't make his mind up before taking the shot / cross / whatever you want to call it. So I mean, there was a lot of good things in the first half, if not, for lack of scoring. I mean, that skill by Rebellon, which, I mean, if you haven't seen it, go get yourself to YouTube right now or to his Instagram because he's got it up on his story and rightfully so. So there was some bright spots for sure. That
skill from Rebellon was absolutely filthy. To drag it back there tight on the touchline and flick it over the defender is it's foul. Like, it's
absolutely disrespectful and in the best way.
Yeah. and one mixtape tour.
Yes.
I will say on that note, to me, it seemed like there was just a lot of skill on display that game. Bryam, Nick, Aaron, Yuma, like he literally brought Sandoval to his knees at one point. Like
Borelli too had a couple like self passes away from his man. So
there was a lot of skill on display.
I was encouraged. One of the things, and it obviously, we can talk about it in terms of the goal, but willingness to take players on. Like, I think it's something that we've kind of lacked. Except for Omar Salgado. Like, he was the only person who was willing to run at people, and it was, strictly because he could bully anybody. So the idea that, those players in midfield are, trying to break the lines with a dribble, I think that wasn't an option they were taking that frequently. Dylan, we've seen that in the past from him, but not necessarily, other players. They would probably choose a sideways pass before they chose to try to break the lines with the dribble. So, it's encouraging to see that sort of stuff, and just the confidence on opening night to pull stuff like that off. I think bodes well for the rest of the season. The goals, though, we'll talk the goals first, and then we can dive into everything around them. The opener comes in the 57th minute, and it's none other than public enemy number one, Devin Sandoval. He's scored. He's now got 4 in his last 5 games against us, or something like that. He always seems to score in El Paso too, but he scores in. It was an interesting move. It was Harry Swartz down the left, I believe, who got the cross in, if I'm not mistaken, and to a position that maybe Big Dev, as he's known, seemed like he might have been offside.
Well, in the angle that I saw on the replay, because I'll be honest, I could not tell from the sideline where Christian and I were sitting, but on the replay, he appears to be past Logan when the ball comes to him. When at the point that the pass is made. So on that angle,
because Logan did come out pretty far.
Logan comes out, yeah. So I mean, and Logan is the last defender.
Yeah.
So debatable. But then again, at the same time, I felt like there was the reflexive arm in the air for offside, but I don't know that I remember any of our guys really contesting it too much. So and again, I don't know. I give a lot of credit to the players. When they think something's wrong, I tend to believe them, and I feel like we didn't see a whole lot of protesting going on with it.
Yeah.
So I'm looking back at it again right now. When I first saw it initially, I was like, yeah, he's off. But he looks to be online with Mishak and Logan when the pass is made.
It's a tough one, too,
he's a
because
hater either way. So
yeah,
stop scoring against us. Anyway,
it is a tough one when the keeper comes out, because the rule technically is we always look off of the last defender, but the technical rule is the last 2 defenders, which is the last defender plus the keeper. So if the keeper moves forward and if you're only level with one player and behind the keeper, you're technically offside. So that's the weird, obviously 99% of the time it doesn't come into play because the keeper is back and we don't really have to take them into account. But with Logan coming off his line, it is possible. If he's behind Logan at all, that means he's off. So, no VAR though. So no lines drawn on the screen and maybe it's for the best. But yeah, Devin Sandoval gets the ball rolling for New Mexico United, and it's one of those where you're just thinking it's a big chance to create it in the moment. This is something that, and maybe we'll get onto it, but it feels like it's something that we're prone to when we're even when we're playing decently in games. We have this possibility of giving up a pretty big chance, and Harry Swartz created this situation down New Mexico United's left to put Sandoval in a position to tap in.
It looked to be so poorly defended too, because when it happened, when I forget who, I think it was Ryden, when he gives that pass off to Swartz, as soon as the ball went flying, I saw Mikka burned. I was like, oh shit, and he'd been having that kind of night already, so I already had my eye on him. So I was like, yikes, this is trouble. And then at USL Tactics put a clip of there where Yuma was super out of position. He was way up the field, but just how Sandoval gets in behind there. Yeah. So it was just poorly defended. And that I wouldn't be upset even if maybe Sandoval was a little bit offside, because we deserved to get scored on there.
It was interesting too, because for most of the night with that moment basically cut out, I would say that Mishak, Yuma, and Adair played a blinder. Like they were all really good. But it just shows that at, a professional level, it really only takes the one moment. It doesn't matter how good you are for a whole game. If you lose your shape like that and get caught, you can get punished, and United punished us.
Yeah, and it's such a United goal too, and also very like basic stuff. Like I don't mean to be disrespectful to their tactics, but like a long ball into that space between the fullback who was bombing on and the center back behind, like that's long ball 101, you know, and like Christian said, Mako's so obviously burned in that moment. Couldn't get back, doesn't have the recovery pace in my estimation to get back and defend that. And Mishak's kind of just, on an island there. Logan comes out and tries to do what he can, but it's, the square ball is really good too, just as good as the ball over the top was. But I mean, I think we have to, I'm skipping around on our outline here, but I mean, Maka K, rough night, ended in injury. But I mean, even from, the very first ball into his area, there was a cross that Daniel Bruce plays to his side of the pitch, and he heads it right at Swartz. He was having trouble just keeping the ball, making himself available for a pass from Logan, clearing the ball. I don't know if maybe he just was nursing an injury maybe, and that's why he left early or what it was. And I don't want to like dump on the guy because I think he's a very good player, but I think we have to kind of call out that it was not his best night. And I think too, if you look at our heat maps, a lot of our attacking was down the left. Like we kind of just avoided that side if it wasn't Bryam. And I'll say this right now. I think Bryam doesn't get that yellow card if he's not having to cover that space. So
no, that's all very fair. And yeah, Maka, I have to think that groin injury was not caused in that one moment. Like I feel like he was making it work. And let's be honest, like our options at right back are pretty thin, if Bryam's in midfield. And I think it speaks volumes that once we drop Bryam back, things started to look a little more fluid, started to look a little bit just more assured going forward. So hopefully Maka can heal up and get back to full fitness, because I do think that played a part. Just because he looked like a shadow of his self from last season.
Yeah, I mean, he was, we really came to like his crossing, but even in this one, he was barely getting past the halfway line. So maybe there's something there fitness wise that contributed to it, as you said, Phil.
Locomotive's goal comes as late as possible. The combination Diego Luna to Josue Aron Gomez nodded down for Leandro Carrillo in the middle, and a efficient night for Leandro Carrillo as he basically takes the only chance he had, and puts it away for the equalizer. So what did you guys make of Locomotive's goal? And obviously like scenes at the end, but what about its makeup?
Well, he heard Mikka talking shit and had to show out. Not 2 minutes before.
To be clear, I was not like abusing the players from like the media sideline.
Yeah,
it was private.
True,
I was just thinking like, what has he done so far? Which
was fair. Which was fair. I will admit it, but it was very timely.
Yeah.
But the goal itself. The goal itself was just kind of one of those poacher goals, kind of right place, right time, stick your foot out. And, Lucho could have had one like that in the first half, if he was just a step faster, would have had that exact same goal. But the build up to the goal, and I just think that there's lots of little layers that made this a really kind of meaningful goal for the team, in that Diego was involved shortly after coming on, about 12, 15 minutes after coming on, he does try and take on the defenders like you were referring to, and puts in that ball to Gomez, who even though he's not scoring goals, still finds a way to contribute and gets that ball in nicely for Leandro to do his thing and finish, and in a way that kind of adds some drama and just makes it more exciting for everyone. But it's good to see him, get on the score sheet and kind of get started early. Took him a little while to get warmed up last season, but clearly, he's ready for it this time.
Austin, it happened right there in front of you. So what did you make of that goal?
First, I do want to bring up, I hope this teaches people to not leave early. I kid you not, I counted at least 10 people in minute 88 start to walk out. And I just
beat the traffic.
But no, it went, everybody went crazy and everything. But I think the bright spot in that, and I know we're going to talk about it later, was definitely Diego Luna. And I was just thinking about this right now, that that cross brought back memories to what Bassetti used to bring for us. So I don't know. I mean, that's something we're definitely going to talk about later, but just seeing that again right in front of us was amazing. And like Christian was saying, it's nice to see Carico already start getting on the board this early in the season. And hopefully he seems like a player that needs the confidence to play well, as most players, but especially as a striker, you need it. So hopefully that kind of gets his campaign going pretty early, and we'll see where we go from there.
The goal aside, looking at the bright spots in this game and the things that stood out to us as just kind of, the positives out of a draw. The one thing that really stood out to me was there wasn't a great consistency to the way that we passed, but there were a lot of moves throughout the match where it was just very slick one-touch passing. And to start with some of that in game one, it has to be encouraging going forward in the rest of the season, that maybe it is something they can make more consistent.
Absolutely. I think in the second half you saw it the most, with a lot of the one touch, touch and move kind of build up play. And yeah, I mean, it's just really nice to see. It's something you can tell is worked on. I mean, right. I'm sure the rondo is very popular in Mark Lowry's training sessions. But yeah, there was a lot of good passing, intricacy and build up, I think, as the game went on. With that being said, I think we have to credit our midfielders for that, especially Nick Ross, especially Bryam and Rebellon, who are both very adept on the ball. And I think Bryam especially has come such a long way, because I remember his debut in midfield and it was shocking.
Yeah.
We were like, this is not going to work. This is insane.
He was slated on this very podcast yes. as maybe too soon for the Bryam midfield experiment. And
now it's he's indispensable there.
Yeah.
So, because when he got the card, we were like, oh man, but we need someone at right back. But he's good at midfield. And so, yeah. And then Nick Ross, I mean, I think there's been questions, I think, maybe from our peers or maybe some fans about what is Nick Ross? What kind of player is he? What does he do? Why is he so highly rated by the manager? If you were really watching the midfield do its thing on Saturday, you will see why Nick Ross is special. I mean, just keeping the ball moving is a skill in and of itself, especially when you're playing against an intense side like United, who are not afraid to stick a foot in. And he had a lot of one-touch passing to get either Borelli outside of him or even Mahrez moving through the lines. So I thought Nick had a really good outing too, and he was being targeted too by Daniel Bruce and the like. So
yeah,
another one to keep an eye on, because we know he's had his injury woes as well, but he was excellent.
Daniel Bruce, you mean ugly Mark Lowry?
Oh my god, just exposing all my takes. You know what, though? I did say privately, like, Daniel Bruce is a better player than I give him credit for. He just needs to stop diving, because he dove in this one, too.
Again.
And
at least he didn't win.
You actually are a good footballer. Like, you don't need to do this, my dude. But
at least he didn't win the pen. That would have been just so depressing. Yeah. It's like we can only get so much mileage out of the Shooting Stars meme. Like,
I'm glad someone brought it back, and it made me laugh all the same.
I did retweet it during the game, and then United scored like right after, and it made me upset. Guys, talking about Nick Ross, like Mark had the quote during the game where it's like the old cliche where if you watch the game, you won't see X player, but if you watch them, you see the game. I felt like Nick Ross took that personally and was demanding to be seen in this game, like the way that he was playing.
Yeah, for sure. I can remember several times, saying like, yeah, like Nick doesn't do anything wrong, but like sometimes you kind of forget that he's there. But yeah, that did not happen this game. Yeah. It was. I don't know if a transformation is the right word, but I know he's a sound player, but he was like aggressively good this game.
Yeah. Between him and Bryam, if the attackers were as sharp as those two, we probably win this game by a rout, because they were unbelievable. But as I mentioned, like the other bright spot for me is how well, especially the center back pairing, like we know how good it was last year, especially, in the run in, but Mishak Yuma is a vibe.
Oh yeah. Big vibes. I think Mishak was very solid. I mean, there's not a whole lot to say, I think, about his performance, which is good, right? Yeah. As a center half. Yuma too. I mean, clearly the directive for him is to be that quarterback and having the whole pitch in front of him, I think really helps him. He still manages to get a card, which I think was probably fair enough, but he's just so good with the ball, and he put Devin Sandoval on his ass. So I think that's the lovely thing about having a midfielder by trade in the back line is, when he's got the ball, he can do those things while still being in the position to defend. So yeah, both of them were very good. And I thought Borelli was very good as well. Mm-hmm. Showed a lot of attacking intent. I think his crossing wasn't, I think he would like some of those crosses back, to be fair. But I think his link-up play with Nick and Yuma was good, I thought, on that left side. Again, I think we were like very left side heavy on the game, on the night. So, I thought the back line was just superb, all things considered.
The Borelli's delivery, it seemed, was a little bit like he tried a couple of like dinked crosses where it seemed like, previously, like, his deliveries are really good if he's just whipping them in and giving, Gomez and Lucho something to attack. So in terms of the concerns from this game, obviously there are a couple. We talked about Maka King, so no need to belabor that point. But the thing that struck me, and Austin, like maybe this is something like there seemed like there was a little bit of an inability, like as good as Nick Ross and Bryam Rebellon were there in midfield, it seemed like there was a little bit of an inability to get the attackers like involved, and specifically Solignac just felt a little bit isolated, it just seemed like he wasn't really able to get into the game that much.
Yeah, and I felt like it was the narrative for most of the match. Like we were able to maintain that possession midfield, but I feel like I mentioned before, we've seen this before where we just can't get into the attacking third, and then when we do get there, it's crosses that just go out or just lose possession anytime we'd get it to Aron or get it to Lucho, and it was very frustrating to watch, and it's something that they need that you feel like Mark, sometime in the past year or two would have tried to fix, but it seems like a reoccurring narrative that we just can't get these strikers in good position sometimes.
How much do you guys think it played a part in this that Dylan maybe wasn't at his sharpest on the night either?
I think that's fair to say because he lost the ball a couple of times. And actually, oh man, maybe I'm going to regret last week's take about, I don't know if New Mexico United stick with this 3/5 at the back, but it worked a treat on the night because when you play this formation, naturally 2 strikers are outnumbered.
Yeah.
And Dylan's kind of having to try and make the space around them for the strikers to get through 3 defenders when we're on the front foot. But yeah, I think Dylan also he wasn't bad though. But I think he's also
no. I don't mean to say that.
He's also set like a really high bar for like his performances because he's had so many man of the match performances for us in a relatively short time with the club. But I think it's just about connecting with Lucho on and off the pitch. He's still pretty new, as we know. He arrived, with the squad quite late in the preseason, given some issues with like coming back from Chile and stuff like that. So I think he's not had as much time as maybe Mark and himself would have liked. So just kind of an anonymous debut, but I think he's talented enough that it eventually will shine through.
Yeah, there were a handful of times too that the flag went up for offside against him, and he was pretty visibly frustrated with the linesman a few times. But yeah, I'm sure he'll get his chances. I think he only had the one that I can remember where he had a crack, but pretty tame shot in the end. Easy for Tambakis to deal with, but. Aside from obviously the goal itself and giving up that kind of customary big chance that we give up against New Mexico United, those were where the concerns were for me, I think. But there was the one big talking point, bright spot, and obviously, a guy that we've spoken to, a guy that has brought a lot of kind of intrigue around the club just because he is a young kid, 17 years old. It'll be said over and over again. But Diego Luna, and at One Star Galileo on Twitter, asked just thoughts on Diego Luna and his performance. What did you guys make of the professional debut of this wonder kid that Locomotive are trotting out?
Yeah, you can't deny that he had a really good game, in his time out there. I would still be hesitant or like wary of, the praise that we give him. Overall, like I said, obviously you can't say enough about what he did this game, but right. I'm also not clamoring for him to start next week.
Yeah.
Because he is still young, and maybe those 15 minutes a game is really, that's perfect for him in that, he gets the game experience. Even being on the bench for 75 minutes is better than, not being selected, being on the bench for 75 minutes, getting that exposure, and then coming in and just being able to do your thing. And, being young, the freshest legs on the whole squad, and just being able to not have to worry about maintaining that and just being able to like sprint for 15 minutes
right.
is probably a good asset for, a good ace in the hole for Mark to have. So I'm excited. And I think that, that role for him right now is probably really good.
Yeah. We'll say the thing that I enjoyed maybe the most, other than the pre-assist, but is his unpredictability on the ball. I think there's 2 sides to that. One, we've never seen him play, obviously. But 2, he reminded me, I feel like we haven't had an individual who can kind of change things on his own or create a move out of nothing since maybe Sebastian Velasquez. Shades of that. Getting a thumbs down for some odd reason. I don't know.
We don't say that name in this house.
But you know what I mean, though. Like Seb used to be able to make things out of nothing, and I feel like Diego kind of did that. And in a Mark Lowry side that's so like drilled on like the possession and patterns of play and teamwork, to see a kid like that, 17 years old, come on and kind of really like take the game by the scruff of its neck and make something happen was really impressive. And I think it just shows the character that Diego has. And I'm not clamoring for him to start either. I think that's a very slippery slope with a kid as young as him. I trust Mark to manage that situation fine. But yeah, it was really nice to just see someone like just individual quality was really fun, and the skills weren't pointless either. I mean, he was creating space for himself and for others. So yeah, and his family was in the house, so I'm sure they enjoyed that. I know some of my colleagues were sitting near his family, and they were ecstatic with the debut for the young man.
Austin, he comes on, and his like third touch is nearly a goal. Tambakis doesn't know a whole lot about it, but we were denied by just a held out hand, a dream moment for Diego.
Yeah. And I think for somebody like Diego, you couldn't ask for a better start. Like you said, third touch, shot on goal. As a goalkeeper, you're just taught to just throw your hand out and pray for the best. And I think that's what happened with Tambakis. Not even a bad shot by Luna, but there's definitely a bright future for this kid, and I think that kind of piggyback on what Mikka was saying was it's going to be slowly get him in, and he kind of brought that spark onto the team as well, the way that he who should not be named kind of did back in the day. So I think it's just based off the one game. What Mark was kind of saying is not here for the long time. Is definitely saw a spark of that on Saturday, and hopefully we continue to see that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like in a professional debut, I think it would have been easy for him to get on, play it safe, just, hey, let me get a couple of touches, like let me just take care of business, not do anything stupid, like that sort of thing. He just showed no fear, and I think he looked extremely at home at this level. Like he does not look out of sorts at all. He doesn't look like he's out of his depth, whatever. Like he looks at home. And yeah, while I think, you guys are certainly right on in saying that we shouldn't be clamoring for him to start off the back of a good 15 minutes. Like there's a big difference between making like a good impact sub performance and, playing a complete 90. And, I would ask that people don't fall into the Edson Partida
exactly what I was going to say.
Exactly. Yes.
But it was extremely promising, and I think the confidence that he showed to get on the ball and just like take people on. He wasn't fazed by making his professional debut, and in speaking to him, like I think we got that sense that he's not overawed by signing a professional contract. He's not just happy to be here. Like he wants to make a difference, and he made a big one. So yeah, nothing but compliments for the kid. Very happy for him. I think he, like you said, Austin, he's got a bright future ahead of him. I just hope that we all kind of manage expectations in that not every game is going to be a 10 out of 10 from him. Like there's going to be games where he goes out and has a stinker, like every single player on earth. He is young, and he is going to go through a lot of different phases of his career and everything. This is just one step of it, but he certainly showed that he can contribute at this level. And it was really great to see. Obviously huge impact in creating the goal. And obviously a great occasion for the kid to get his professional debut under his belt.
I think it's interesting how the club actually had him front up to the media afterwards in the press conference. He was one of the players that spoke. So, I mean, clearly a player that is much more than just his age.
Well, now that we've talked the match, it's time. The first edition of the 2021 season of the long-held tradition, time-honored tradition. For those who are new to the show, the Shithouse 11 is a collection of players who embody the dark arts of soccer, who get away with those errant kicks or spats with the referee or shoves on players or whatever the case may be. They get away with it. The Sergio Ramoses of the world, for those who know. So, the Shithouse 11, each game we're going to select a player, and anyone is on the table in terms of like locomotive players can end up on this, opposition players can end up on this. But it's just that person who embodies that spirit of shithousery the most from the game. And so we'll talk about it a little bit and pick our selection. Guys, the first time in 2021, the shithousery gods saw fit to grant us a very easy choice, I think.
For me, there were too many choices.
Wait, hold up. Who do you think? Because I thought there was like 3 good contenders. Who is it for you, Phil?
Okay. Well, there's obviously multiple contenders because it is New Mexico United, aka Shithouse FC. The only thing that was disappointing about this game from a Shithouse perspective is that Josh Suggs only had like 12 minutes to make an impact. And he's, ever present for the Shithouse 11. But I don't think he makes the cut in this one, despite having a shithouse moment at the end. For me, the player who it is despite Daniel Bruce diving again, and despite Josh Suggs seeing the pitch, it is none other than Armando Moreno.
Yeah, yep, he's mine as well. Yep, okay.
Armando woke up and chose violence, and then the referee said, "Carry on."
He co-signed for sure. Yeah. He was warned like approximately 69 times now. But the shithousiest thing for me was when he refused to get 10 yards away from the ball for a free kick.
Yeah.
And Yuma was furious. And he just would not move until he was physically moved. It's like, that's when I was watching the match back last night to prepare for this podcast, and at that point is when I shut it off because I was like, nah, like the way my blood pressure is set up, like we're not doing this. He's so annoying, and he gets the Shithouse 11 for me for sure this week.
What did you think, Christian?
It was all over the board, man. Between Moreno. Between Sandoval laying on the ground for like 5 minutes with like 80 minutes left.
Oh, yeah.
And then people complaining that the ref gave too much extra time.
I thought he gave the correct amount of extra time when you count yellow cards and injuries. But okay.
Yes. He
would have been well within his rights to let that play to 78, by the way, because the fact he blew the whistle like at the goal, like basically right at kickoff, like that was the last kick of the game. Like there were so many stoppages in stoppage time. He could have let it play a lot longer. Like, and he would have been within his rights.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was, Moreno, Sandoval, and, who was it? Who got the yellow card in the little scuffle? I forgot. Was it,
it was Suggs.
Yeah.
I couldn't quite tell who it ended up going to because there was a lot of shithousery going on in there too. But with all that being said, I don't feel really strongly one way or the other. So as if it comes to a vote, I'm just gonna side with the majority here.
I have my own personal thing against Ryden, but just bugged me after one of the chances, and he just. Literally, it was, I think, the 80th minute when Arron had a chance on goal, and he clears the ball, and he sees the ball get cleared, and then just lays right back. It just stayed there, and that's my only thing, but Moreno definitely deserves it as well.
Yeah, Ryden is like he's got that in him. he doesn't always show it because he is a pretty, he's a solid defender, but he definitely has that shithouse gene deep within. So I think it's clear Armando Moreno gets it, just for being annoying as hell and somehow not being punished for it at any point. So,
which is like, that's like elite shithousery, right?
Exactly.
You don't get a card for
the only thing that would have put Bruce over the top is if that horrible dive would have also won a pen. Like,
absolutely shocking. And if you want to hear like cursing on TV, then go watch the game back and listen to Logan Ketterer. Just F-bombs galore. It was absolutely glorious.
Absolutely batters the referee. This game also, there was a question from Taco Darren asking about the performance of the referee, which the Shithouse 11 feels like the correct place to address it. This refereeing performance can be summed up by one picture a screenshot that you captured, Mikka, in which Yuma abandons the parade rest that he normally approaches in favor of pleading Italian hand.
Yeah, man, they're making Yuma get diverse with the reactions. Like, no, it's bad. He did have a parade rest, though.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Like, he did, so.
Yeah.
It was a complete locomotive performance from him.
The referee overall, it was an odd one where they're like, oh, they're letting the kids play, but then he would get the cards out for like a nickel and dime challenge in midfield, and it was just here's like the and I'm sure it's not the last time we'll talk about the referees, but the carpet statement that we can make from the beginning is that it will be inconsistent and it will be infuriating throughout the season. So like, we just need to get that out there. There is no consistency with pro referees.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, and to me it was just bad, like, situational awareness. Like, this is not a match where you can let them play. Like, I'm all for that, but like, this is not the match to do that.
Right.
So it just seemed unprepared in that regard.
Because it leads to that moment late on, that little scuffle or whatever, where basically he's just standing outside blowing his whistle and no one is paying attention.
Yeah,
no one's even looking at him. Like, they're all just fighting.
That doesn't happen, in one moment. That builds up over the course of the game if you allow it to. And, he certainly didn't feel like he needed to prevent that at any point. It was actually kind of funny because at the end of the match, my wife, who was watching, she texted me. She was like, "Do the police always walk out with the refs?" She was very conscious of the police presence with the referees on Saturday.
And they got battered by the fans.
Oh yeah, they let them hear it.
Absolutely, yeet.
Yeah, it was.
My phone did.
It was after the equalizer. Austin's phone went on a journey.
You said yeet.
The brave little toaster has nothing on fucking Austin's phone. Shit took off. So we always talk about the game changers during the game for Locomotive, and the Shark on Twitter asks, who impressed the most in the match and who would you like to see more of going into the next match? So a little bit of a double question here, but we'll just go around the horn. Mikka, who impressed you and who do you want to see more of?
I think over the entire game, like consistently, Nick Ross probably just exerting that same control that he always does, on top of being a little bit more like forward thinking and skillful. So I think it was him for me, and that's probably like maybe the Galaxy brain choice, but I'm sticking with it.
What about you, Christian?
I guess the player that impressed me most was also Nick Ross. I think he was the best player on the field. during the game, so it's hard to come up with another choice. But it's hard to say, it's kind of a chicken or egg situation, but, Maka comes off and Aiden comes on, and things really start changing. I didn't feel like I was like noticing Aiden a whole lot. But maybe there's something to that, having him on the field, and being able to be a little more aggressive. So maybe, it'll be interesting to see if Mark decides to, put Bryam at right back, even if he doesn't have to, if Maka is still available, starting Bryam at right back and, throwing Aiden up there and just seeing what that does. 'Cause I think that, Bryam is still just as serviceable a right back as he was last, before he made the switch. So,
right.
To be able to do that and throw those options, since we have like hella midfielders, to be able to make those choices will probably be interesting. So I'll say that's what I'm looking for more of is more diversity in the midfield.
Sure.
And maybe throwing Bryam back on defense.
I feel like the shout there too is just it gives credence to the idea that the 4-4-2 diamond that we started with was blunted by that 3 at the back for New Mexico. But once we shifted to that 4-2-3-1, where you have, 3 attacking midfielders and that striker, you're now outnumbering those center backs like in central areas. So the idea that, once we change shape, even if Aiden didn't have because there were a couple of times that he was in and around the box, but wasn't really able to get control of a touch or something like that. Just looked like he was adapting to the game. But we were still getting into more dangerous areas, and it felt like it had to do with that change of shape. So maybe it's something that Mark looks at for next game in terms of how RGV has set up, because I think against most back fours, starting with 2 strikers up top is fine. But against that back 3, it just didn't work. And then it just seemed to shift, as you said, when we had that little change of shape. Austin, who caught your eye in this one, and who do you want to see more of?
Caught my eye, or definitely impressed, was Bryam being able to, mid-game having to go from being midfield back to right back, and not really seeing a quality drop from him at all.
Yeah.
Especially Wonka coming off with the injury and just the kind of struggles we saw from him, and Bryam was able to come back in the formation and really provided that stability there. Wanting to see more of, I want to see more of the attack, more coming from Lucho, more really.
Yeah.
He was kind of my guy coming in the season, really wanted to see what he can bring. So if they can give him a little more chances, I want to see a lot more coming from him.
I'd agree with basically those choices across the board. I definitely am looking for Lucho to be a game changer against RGV, but we got off to a little bit of a slow start in terms of Locomotive draw their opening match. I have a feeling in our pick'em results, we probably all got off to a pretty slow start also, Christian. So what's the update in terms of the score after week 1?
None. The score sheet looks exactly like it did this time last week. So
goose eggs across the board. So no one predicted a draw, obviously, and no one predicted the goal scorers to be Leandro. So yeah, tough week for your crew down here.
Yeah, I wasn't mad when New Mexico scored because they needed to score one for my prediction to come true.
See, this is why people say fantasy sports and betting and all that is not for real fans, because then you get into that mindset of well, I needed that to happen. Shocking from you, Christian.
Hey. I need that pick'em clout. So
Yeah.
can't let Austin hog all of it.
Oh man. Well, yeah. So clean slate as we go into week 2. Next week we have RGV, and we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with the preview of the match against RGV. So stay tuned. What is the triangle? Like, what? There's a triangle, but why? Welcome back to Seriously Loco. RGV up next. The 2-0 RGV Toros, 1-0 wins against New Mexico United and San Diego Loyal. So RGV playing the clout smashers in terms of like the darling USL championship clubs getting beat. RGV also perpetuating the Landon Donovan fuck yeah meme. So lots of good things happening, but we have to give credit where it's due. Christian Canales, our resident RGV expert, with like sitting pretty with your predictions so far, man.
They've looked good, man. And like it's not like they've been like lucky wins. They have definitely deserved all 6 points that they have so far, and like I had said, they're doing it just how they look like mid-season 2019 El Paso Locomotive. And there's just like smothering teams and just doing the bare minimum that they need to on attack. But it works. You know, if you can do that for long enough, that's going to get you a good in a good spot at the end of the season.
Yeah, like you said, they've done it the Loco way, like passing and good defense. This RGV team, like getting through these challenges against attacks that have the potency of United and San Diego Loyal, I mean, those are pretty stern tests. Like, that's no joke for RGV to be 2-0 right now.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, they left it late against San Diego Loyal, to be fair, 87th minute strike. But Derek has been very impressive for them, to be fair. You know, I think that FotMob actually calls him player of the match, but obviously that back line is helping out a lot, all of them with above 7 ratings on the night. And it's kind of a similar game to New Mexico United in that they a little bit gave the edge of possession to Loyal, but they end up creating more of the chances and obviously scoring. So, and then keeping the clean sheet along the way. So this RGV side is pretty serious. I think the attacking, I still have questions about it. I think as the season progresses, they will want to score more than one goal to get through. I don't know that that'll be enough as they face sterner tests. But I mean, Loyal and United to start off your season is nothing to shrug at. So they'll visit us, and it will be a very tough test, I think.
Yeah, that's another thing I think that needs to get thrown out too, is that they have played both of their games at home so far.
True.
So we haven't quite seen the full picture. So that'll be kind of the biggest thing to look for, I think, when they come here.
Austin, with these couple of results, are we like joining Christian on the RGV hype train quite yet?
I don't know. I need to see what they do against us first, and then I might jump over. I'm trying to see if I can catch up to it first, I don't
know that this train leaves the station next Friday, guys. You need to make up your mind before then. Kidding.
Speaking of hype trains, Christian, another a piece of this RGV team that you hyped up and you actually had mentioned as a potential signing for Locomotive, Rodrigo Lopez, has looked super impressive in midfield for RGV these first 2 games, has been a key piece. And in the last game against San Diego Loyal, he created the most chances and had the most tackles.
Yeah, he's he's just an all-around good player. Kind of like you couldn't ask for more out of your midfielder there. and that is what I would expect from him. It's kind of why, I wish we could bring him in, but obviously I think that it would be hard to choose, have to choose between him and Dylan. So I can understand how maybe that he wasn't, too high of a priority target for the team in the offseason. But, I mean, with the experience that he has and, the pedigree that he has, it's not surprising at all.
And I mean, as you said, we do have hella midfielders,
yes.
to use your turn of phrase. So, perhaps like the biggest story of this match is the fact that Loyal coming out of this offseason, they acquire Corey Herzog and Jack Blake, two obviously, big established USL championship pieces. But Mikka, in this game, Corey Herzog, 0 shots, and not just shots on target, like 0 shots. And Jack Blake, one of the most accomplished passers in the USL Championship, held to 62% pass completion, and he only completed 11 passes.
Yeah, shocking stuff. Again, it's really hard to go to Edinburgh and play RGV when they're at home. But again, we saw this with Phoenix in the first week too, that there's just something not right about that setup, that San Diego Loyal setup. And I don't know, maybe Landon Donovan's kind of getting exposed as far as the tactics are concerned, because there's not a whole lot of like joined up thinking in the midfield for me with this Loyal side. And I mean, you see it with Jack Blake's numbers. Like, that's a player of his quality should just be having, above 80% possession and pass completion, pass completion as a matter of course. So to see that kind of thing is really shocking. I mean, the Herzog thing, I could kind of forgive that because I think they were coming up against, a really, I can't believe I'm saying this, but like after 2 games, an informed keeper, they are looking like in mid-season form, as Christian said. But yeah, that the midfield numbers are shocking to say the least. And I don't know what experience I guess Landon Donovan has with fixing these kind of issues, but I'm sure we will see. But until then, that cringe video will continue to make the rounds. I hate it so much, but also I click it every time it comes across. Like,
it's hilarious.
I just, yeah.
So going into this match against RGV, Locomotive, we're coming out of this draw. There's some question marks. There's a few players that we obviously haven't seen, involved yet. So do you guys expect any changes going into this one? Are there changes you want to see? Obviously, we talked about some of the players that we want to see more from. But is there anyone that didn't play, or a formation change or anything like that you guys want to see from Mark headed into this, specifically to counter this kind of identical feeling system from RGV?
This seems like one of those instances where, because they're so similar, you kind of just have to like create absolute chaos up there. So I'm thinking maybe we end up with with our 2 small forwards maybe. Mm-hmm. We put Aiden and Osway on the field at the same time, something like that, in that forward position at the same time. And just to really like confuse people, just throw Chapa on there too. 'Cause I would have liked to see him get some minutes in against New Mexico. But I don't think that he should spend 2 games on the bench. I think he's too good for that. So I'd like to see him get some time too.
Based on the telecast, I think Chapa was like a fitness concern. They listed him as questionable, which like, it's like you're either playing or you're not.
Is
like,
this the NFL?
Yeah,
what is this?
Doubtful.
Yeah.
Like, doubtful and questionable anyway.
Probable.
And it's like,
Probable.
yeah, he's very doubtful since he wasn't named in the squad. Like, you know, it's like it will be tough for him to enter this match. No, he is one that I think they were nursing some sort of fitness concern. So maybe there's a chance that he gets into the next game if he's fit in time. But yeah, I like that idea of just like the pressing forwards, like just send them out and just try to cause like some kind of disruption in what RGV is doing, because they're going to try to do the same thing that we try to do, which is play out from the back, from back to front, involve those defenders in the buildup, and then ultimately, their attack's been a little inconsistent, but you just hope to give yourself that one opportunity. I think for us, watching some of these games, it does seem like there have been moments for their opposition where they probably should have capitalized. And I think San Diego had some decent chances. New Mexico definitely had one or two that Tyler Derrick sniffed out. So the onus will be on those forwards to, when they have that opportunity, they're going to have to be sharp to beat Tyler Derrick.
Yeah, and I think it'll be a good test too of, how much they kind of bought into what Mark was selling this offseason, in that the goal this season, like the milestone, is that efficiency. And I think that this is a good chance to do it, in that they are a team that you'll be able to. You'll get your opportunities. There won't be a ton of them, and so you really need to make them count.
I will say, I think maybe we'll see an enforced change or two. I mean, we do, if I'm not mistaken, get like 2 weeks from now until this game, so that'll help. But if Maka's not ready in time, then perhaps we see Bryam drop into that right back area, which wouldn't be the end of the world, because as we've seen over the years, he's still very much an attacking threat from that area. And in fact, I would probably welcome that, because I'd like to see Jose Aguinaga come in. I think he's, as Christian said, hella midfielders. Well, I'd like to see it. And I think he could provide something. But Chapa just as well. I mean, I wouldn't be upset with him starting either. So yeah, we'll see if we can get guys healthy and then maybe persist with that, a similar lineup. But I wouldn't change the formation. I think the diamond probably would work fine against this. We're not going to have three at the back kind of outnumbering us in those areas. So I'm probably, I've come around a lot on the diamond, having to accept that Mark likes to play this way. I used to hate it, but with our personnel, it works. It works more often than it doesn't, and I think it causes a lot of confusion because not many people play the diamond. So it's kind of my thoughts on that overall.
The only concern I have about the diamond in a situation against a team that plays a 4-3-3 is they're likely going to put a 6 on Dylan, and just key off of him. And it can go obviously one of two ways. Dylan could absolutely eviscerate this kid, and it could be, smooth sailing. I think the challenge comes when you do have a player who's specifically, who's basically his job is to mark you out of the game. That can become really challenging for Dylan just to be able to find the space to operate in. Because normally he's able to, if we're playing against a 4-4-2, which, a lot of USL teams operate in these 4-4-2s or 4-2-3-1s, you kind of have this natural space behind the midfield and in front of the defense that exists. And when a team plays with a dedicated 6, it can sometimes get a little bit more difficult. So it'll just be interesting to see that matchup and see how Dylan, manages that throughout the game. Cause there are a lot of instances, just in world football about where that sort of thing happens, where that defensive midfielder marks a 10 out of a game. Tough task given Dylan's quality, but just something to keep an eye on. So Austin, was there a change that you want to see from Locomotive, or any changes to the formation? We did have a couple of questions actually come in a little bit late And I want to acknowledge Chino Alarcon, who asked about what changes, if any, we want to see, and Genevieve as well. So some eighth notch legends in the replies, but any changes for that you would want to see, Austin?
I don't know if I want to see, but I think it's all going to come down to Maka's fitness as well.
Yeah.
If he is, does that mean that Bryam's going to move down and do we see Aiden or Chapa start in the midfield? But I think maybe just because if the boys are able to go out there and play the game that they should be able to play, that the lineup that was out there this past Saturday should have put up 2-3 goals. So I don't know if I want to see any changes, but I feel like we're going to see that change at right back depending on Maka's fitness, and it'd be interesting on who's Mark's going to go with in the midfield, if it's going to be Chapa or Aiden.
Yeah, I think when given the opportunity, Mark is going to make as few changes as possible, like week to week, and he's going to really try to manage the minutes, like over the course of the season, rather than like try to make wholesale changes game over game. And I think watching Maka's fitness, and honestly, like if Maka's not 100%, then not rushing him back, because obviously it's a long season. We don't want to make any, aggravate any sort of injury that then turns into this season long, saga of, is Maka fit? Is he able to play? So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind in the short term if that means Bryam drops back to right back and we bring in, Chapa or Jose like into that midfield spot, then I guess we'll see.
Who else do we really have back there? Boehner?
Yeah, Boehner's the only like actual right back, and I think even then he's more, I mean, he's just not as mobile, obviously, as what we're asking of Maka and Bryam.
Yeah, I'd rather see Bryam drop back instead of seeing Boehner in there.
Yeah, no offense to Matt. I mean, I'm sure he's a nice guy, but yeah, just in terms of the quality there, like we obviously, I think we need that quality from wide, and it's a big part of our attack. Like, we just have to acknowledge that if we're not getting creative, any creative energy going forward from those wide areas, then it's all going to be central, and it's all going to be pretty kind of, able to be funneled. The upside to this matchup, being, well, not in Edinburgh, is we'll be able to congest the pitch going the other way too. And our midfield will be able to hopefully control proceedings, but it will be very interesting to see how they match up, because it's a little bit, I don't know, it's a little bit Spider-Man meme, like pointing at each other. Like, it just has a very similar feel where, not the most potent attacks historically speaking, but a lot of control, a lot of good defense. And RGV, in fairness, has persisted in these two games and gotten the goals, but they, deflected strike against New Mexico and then a completely unmarked striker on a late delivery into the box. So yeah, I mean, there's probably avoidable, I guess, in the one case at least, but a great moment for RGV fans. And I mean, they have, this is the sort of thing that they've been waiting for, in the sense that they have a couple of wins under their belt, and like we said, they've severed that tie with Houston, so they get to enjoy it in like a very pure way, where this is an RGV team that represents RGV, not, Daddy Dynamo or whatever.
Daddy Dynamo.
Oh my God.
Hate that.
Thanks, I hate it. Yeah.
And I just also, we talked about their goal against San Diego. You mentioned it right now, but like, Mans is 41 years old. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine being a professional athlete. I can barely imagine it right now. But like, in 11 years, to just still be doing what you're doing at 41. So shout out to Vicente Sanchez for making me feel very unaccomplished.
Yeah, Vicente out there. And like the last thing, and this doesn't matter, but in American soccer it does. RGV adopting this blue look, like they've ditched the orange is like peripheral now. And they've gone for this royal blue. What do you guys make of RGV's new look?
I get like New York Mets vibes from it, like the blue and orange.
Yeah.
Which I'm a Mets fan, so I don't mind. And it is kind of like this tangible like separation from the Houston branding. So I fucks with it.
Yeah. Plus, like, water is blue, and like the Rio Grande is a river.
they're in the Rio Grande Valley, though.
That's a
going real galaxy brain on us there, Phil.
Yeah. That's my MLS version, like kit explainer,
where it's like
graphic. Where it's like the blue represents water
and life.
People in Edinburgh drink water.
Yeah.
So
The players drink water.
the Rio Grande like has some water.
I think it probably has more water down there than it does here.
The Rio Grande in El Paso, I always think it's funny when people reference it because it's like it's not a river. Like in El Paso, it's just not. Like it's a sandbar that separates us from New Mexico. Like
depends on the time of year. But
I know.
For the most part.
So, well, on to the business end of today's episode. We have to pick, and I mean, for the love of God, people, can we get 1 point this week?
this might be a hard one.
This
might
tough.
be a hard one.
So, I guess, I mean, since it was a stalemate, we should just stick with the order, I feel.
Yeah, so Austin.
And Austin lead it off. You guys don't understand how hard Austin is thinking about this right now. Like he's about to just break the internet with this prediction. He's going to be spot on.
I think I'm gonna have to go with the draw. 1-1. And
Again? Fuck.
yeah. Just with how hot RGV is, and I think Adon's gonna get them.
I don't, for some reason, I don't see us keeping them out, but I do see us winning. So I will go 2-1 with Gomez scoring.
All right. I have to let it be known that I had already made my pick before Austin made his, but I also foresee a 1-1 draw. But I am hoping that Lucho can get his foot on the end of one and put it in the net.
So I had a thought earlier today when I was getting ready for this, and I've been trying to talk myself out of it coming here, but I'm going to make a cursed guess.
Oh, no.
And say 0-0. Because I just, like, these two teams playing each other, I just think it's literally like, it's whatever. It's just, they're going to cancel each other out, I think. And I think it's just going to be a really, like, tactical, tough match where we just grind each other down and, you know, maybe a couple of decent opportunities, but Logan and Tyler Derrick are equal to him. I had that thought at, like, 2 p.m. today, and I tried to talk myself out of it, but I'm sticking with it. 0-0 draw. I don't know if I get extra points if there's no goal scored, like, but
I think we said yes.
But yeah,
I think we said you get the point.
Like for the goal scorer, I guess, being no one.
I think that's what, yeah.
But yeah, obviously I hope I'm wrong, and I'm hoping for a better battle. I think, you know, if Locomotive win this, I do think it would be, you know, Uno reverse card and hit him with the 1-0. Like, I think that would be that would be the way that Locomotive get a win here. But I don't know. I'm just foreseeing a long 90 minutes for some reason.
Yeah, I think that you are not very far off. I am terrified that this game is going to be so boring.
I'm the only one that picked a win, you cowards.
We draw once. I'm literally guessing 3-0 last week, and then we draw once, and I'm like, we'll never score again. Like, that's it.
It's Christian's train that scares me a little bit. Yeah.
I thought Phil was gonna predict a Locomotive loss. That's what I thought he was.
No. I'm not that Austin Bold, but How
many puns are in that one?
that's like at least like 4 layers of puns. I just think it's a tough one to pick, given how the styles, do match up really well. We also historically don't perform that great against RGV, although it was better, I guess. Or did we? Yeah, because we played them last season, right? 2-0 win or something like that?
Yeah, last season. And I think they were the team that Edson got his brace against, too.
Yes. And then we shit the bed in the last 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. Oops.
It was the brace hurt around the borderline.
Yeah. The brace hurt around Locos Nation. R.I.P. Locos Nation.
R.I.P. Are they still a thing? Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I have no idea. I've just never heard. Like,
why does it sound like we're talking about a person? That's exactly some celebrity starts trending on Twitter. Oh my god, did they die?
Yeah.
I'm so sad to hear about the passing of Mr. Nation.
What is it? Sorry that happened, or congratulations. Congratulations, or sorry that happened.
Rip to Locos Nation, but I'm different.
Yeah. We're off the rails fully now, so
we gotta go. We gotta
get out of here. But guys, hopefully you have enjoyed the podcast, and if you have, you can listen to us on any of the major podcast platforms. I was looking at our stats the other day, guys. We are approaching 12,000 unique downloads of the show.
Hey.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like, I don't know, that number just like
out of like 60 episodes, or this is 63 now.
Yeah, so basically like
200 an episode.
Somewhere in the 200
like
range.
Maths.
Dropping that cloud at the bar.
Yeah. So thank you guys for listening, because we enjoy doing this, and hopefully you enjoy listening. So subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you enjoy, and you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Seriously Loco, and Instagram about to be real lit, because Christian Canales is bringing that camera heat on game day, and snap some real good shots, man.
Thanks, man. I it's the first time doing something like this, and my philosophy going in was just point the camera where people are and just keep holding the button down, and it worked for the most part. I took about 300 photos and found 6 that I liked. So
hey, that's how photography works, man. You take 1,000 and find 5.
It's a numbers game. But thanks to everyone that appreciated the photos on Twitter and stuff. And I'll keep trying to put stuff out there, and hopefully you guys keep enjoying it and keep engaging.
That the Logan picture on the walkout is literal fire, because there's flames in the background, but that was really cool. So the Instagram's stepping the game up a little bit, and yeah, we'll be back with more after the RGV game and all season long. And until next time, guys, stay loco.